Chapter 7 Charming a Man. Men are suckers for charm. Like a putty in your hands, from long experience, women are often suspicious of a man who is trying to be charming, knowing that he, being a man, may have ulterior motives. Men, on the other hand, are much more open to being charmed if you do it right. Men get their greatest sense of value and importance from achievement, status, and the respect of the key people in their worlds. Men are driven and motivated to bring home the bacon and provide it for themselves and their families. This is central to their self-image and identity. Some men can never rest, no matter how much they have accomplished. They feel insecure, they feel as if they must accomplish more, and men have what psychologists call insecurity of status. Many of them have a deep down unspoken fear that everything they have accomplished could be taken away from them at any moment. They must continually achieve more and more, no matter what they have accomplished in the past. The key to charming a man is simple. Ask him questions and appreciate him for his achievement. Acknowledge and recognize him for his work and accomplishment, and be impressed with what he is doing and what he has done. He will find you fascinating. Brian appraising accomplishment. When my son Michael was about 5, he came home one day from Montessori school with a happy look on his face, and I asked him, "How was school today?" He beamed at me and replied, "My teacher told me that she was really proud of me." He then repeated as if it was very important, "She was really proud of me." I immediately recognized that the teacher had hit an emotional chord in Michael that I could strike as well. From that day forward, I have continued to tell my children, "I am really proud of you." Whenever they did anything worthwhile, every time I said these words, I saw how it elevated their self-esteem and sense of value, personal value. And as a busy professional speaker, I meet thousands of people each year. Whenever someone tells me about something he has accomplished, I say something like, "You must be very proud of that." Men especially are deeply affected when people they respect tell them how proud they are of some achievement, and they find it both moving and charming. What men need. Men are charmed when you appreciate that they are capable of succeeding in providing. When a woman smiles at a man, it makes him happy, reinforcing his self-esteem and making him feel more secure. Any expressions of praise, approval, or admiration for his accomplishment warm his heart and cause him to see you as a remarkable prospective person. When women lavishes attention on a man as he talks and explains his work and career path, practicing all the listening skills she has learned in this book, you will find her absolutely fascinating. You often see an ordinary-looking woman with a good-looking, successful man and say, "I wonder what he sees in her." And the answer is, what she sees in him. When a woman looks into a man's eyes and sees a valuable and important person, he finds her irresistible. He is absolutely charmed. Your tools for charming others. Select any man in your life and ask him a simple question like, "How is everything going at work?" And when he answers, lean forward and pay close attention as if his response was absolutely fascinating. And when he slows down or stops speaking, which he will to test whether you are really interested, follow up with one of these questions. What happened then? And what did you do say there? He will almost immediately begin speaking again, which gives you more of an opportunity to listen and appreciate his accomplishment. Chapter 8 Charming from the inside out and from the outside in. Now that you know the basics of charming people, affecting them at a deep emotional level, let's look at the reason why charm works so that you can better practice the technique in this book to become even better at getting your own sweet way. In the theater, there are two core approaches to acting: the American approach, which is referred to as inside out, and the European approach, which is outside in. Using the American method, actors begin the work of creating a character in a play from the psychological point of view. They search for personal qualities inside themselves that are similar to those of the character, and using the similarities, the actor builds outward layer upon layer and to create all the attitudes and behavior of the person he or she will eventually portray. In the self-improvement arena, there are many inside-out equivalents. We are encouraged to look inside ourselves for the source of our behavior and understand why we do and say what we do. The belief is that By changing the way we think on the inside, we will change the way we act on the outside. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The European approach. When building a character using the European approach, actors begin by creating the outward behaviors of the character they will play. They first imagine the way the characters will talk, walk, and behave, and then the actor move inward layer by layer, developing the psychological reasons for the behavior of the person being played. This device is also used in the self-improvement arena. By changing our external behavior, we can influence what others feel and also what we feel inside. For instance, if you behave as though you are happy or excited, you will probably convince others that you are happy and excited. But an added bonus is that you too will begin to feel happy or excited. The power of charm has been written as an outside-in book. In it, we deal with how you can change your external behavior by developing and using certain skills that give you control of the personal image that you want others to see, and will let your inner dynamics take care of themselves. Run on an unexpected transformation. As an old friend of ours, let's call her Miriam, came to visit us to apologize for her outbursts at dinner the night before. Her mood swings and eruption were legendary. She mentioned that she had been seeing the same psychiatrist for 7 years. 7 years? I quote. My wife, Nikki. That's an awfully long time to stay with any string. Tell me, after all that time, do you think you have got your money's worth? I asked, which provoked an icy glare from my wife. Well, yes, I know. I understand why I behave the way I do, but I still cannot really control myself. So I've been wondering about whether all the time money has been worth it. She seemed quite dejected and defeated as she sat there. Nikki said, "Have you ever thought about changing to another therapist? We know a physiologist who specializes in behavioral problems. Would you be willing to have a chat with him? He might be able to help." Miriam was quiet for a while and then said, "I may as well." And she sighed, "I've nothing to lose." We didn't hear from or see her for some time. That one evening she called. I answered the phone. "Hello, Ron, this is Miriam." "Hi, Miriam, how are you?" "Coming along fine." "What happened with the psychologist?" I asked. "Did you ever call him?" "Yes, I did. I've been seeing him for a few weeks now, and there is already quite a difference. What's interesting is that he really does not bother too much about why I do things. He mostly concentrates on how I can behave differently." We saw Miriam at the dinner party a couple of months later, and the change was astonishing. The kind of thing that would have had her pounding the table or going menu on menu with anyone who contradicted her were now ignored. She was a pleasure to be with. When we commented on the change, she told us, "It's not only that I can control my behavior no matter what's going on inside me, but I don't get as agitated as I used to. I have learned that changing my behavior reduces my agitation." Concentrate on behavior. Miriam's story is a confirmation of the difference between inside out and outside in. As it applied to everyday life, it's a fact. Knowing why you are doing things does not automatically mean that you know how to change them. If you really want to change, worry less about why and concentrate more on the how. It is often easier and faster for us to change from the outside than to change from the inside. Behavior is everything. To go back to the example at the beginning of the chapter 1, do you think that Bill Clinton was genuinely interested in Mark Sanborn, or was his warm, his utter, in the moment focused, a cultivated behavior? And does it really matter? Regardless of what's going on in your head, what you are ultimately judged by is your behavior. If you behave as stuff you hate, then you hate. If you behave as stuff you love, then you love. If you behave as stuff you care, you care. People will react based on how they perceive us to behave, and no matter what our inner agendas may be. Your tools for charming others. Don't worry so much about changing the way you think and feel inside, because it may take a long time to show any improvement or results. Instead, concentrate on behaving exactly as if you were already a charming person. Create a mental image of yourself as absolutely charming on the inside, and then act accordingly on the outside. Select someone you feel is already charming and think about how the person treats others in conversation, and try to do the same thing that person does when you talk to others. Chapter 9. The Power of Attention. Here is a scenario that I'm sure is familiar to most everyone, particularly at the breakfast or dinner table. It sounds something like this. C. You're not listening to me. He. Yes, I am. C. You're not. No, you're not. He. I tell you I am. C. I'm telling you you're not. He. I am. I can repeat every damn word you said. C. I don't give a damn if you can't. You're not listening to me. What she's really telling him is that even if he has 100% recall, he is failing to convince her that he is giving her his undivided attention. Yeah, undivided attention. Charm requires undivided attention, especially when listening. Unless you are at a lecture, remembering what someone says is only a part of listening. If your attitude seems to be saying, I don't care enough to bother to react to you, if nothing in your behavior confirms you are listening, you are being a lousy listener. If there are not any signal coming from you that say you are paying attention, you're not listening. Good relationships, whether social or professional, are built on many qualities, but nothing is as important as being perceived as being an empathetic listener. The better listener you are and the more valuable you are in any relationship. But how do we know if somebody is listening with complete attention? You do what great listeners do. You signal that you are listening. Your behavior, body language should say, I am totally focused on what you are saying. Every word you utter is of extreme importance to me. Those who send a signal are termed attentive listeners. Those who don't are called inattentive listeners. Give acknowledgments and assurance. We refer to the signals as acknowledgement and reassurance. Attentive listeners use them to acknowledge the other person's presence and reassure them they are totally involved in an act of listening. Attentive listeners project that in the moment focus that makes people feel special and important. The more of this signal you practice, the more charming you will appear. Your tools for charming others. The next time you are conversing with someone, make a special effort to acknowledge and reassure the person that you are fully engaged in the conversation and involving what he is saying. Face the person directly and concentrate on his words. Act as if this is the last time you will ever see him. Learn how to signal to the person that you are paying attention. Chapter 10. The first signal, eye contact. How do you know when someone is listening to you? The first important signal is eye contact. The pure and simple. If someone is not looking at you, that person is not listening to you. How many times have you thought, or perhaps say particularly to your children, will you look at me when I'm talking to you? Do you know how irritating it is when people don't look at you when you are talking to them, and how much more comfortable you feel when they do? Look directly at the speaker. Make direct eye contact, and that's the basic way people will know if you are listening. And the more eye contact you give, the more involved you seem. How much eye contact is right? When you are listening, there is no such a thing as too much. Ideally, it should be 100%. If you look away too often or for too long, you will almost certainly trigger a negative reaction in the other person, who will begin to think, I'm boring, he does not like me, or she's not interested in what I have to say, and not one positive thought is created by poor eye contact. For you to be perceived as a charming, you must practice excellent eye contact when you are listening. Your tools for charming others. In your next conversation, practice staying in the moment. When you want to be charming, you must be there. Whether you spend a minute or an hour with the other person, discipline yourself to remain totally focused on the now. You cannot be charming if you're not there. Resolve to develop the habit of using direct eye contact when you are listening. Select a social or business occasion when people are speaking to you. As they are speaking, make sure that your are looking into their eyes, not the bridges of their noses, their foreheads, or beyond their left ears. Focus your attention. Try not to allow any distraction. Don't be tempted to scout to the room looking for more important and desirable company. And the bar, or food table. Allow your eyes and your attention to belong to them until they finish speaking. Practice the technique of focused eye contact at home with your family as well, and once you find yourself paying close attention to the other naturally and easily, you may then move from good eye contact to the superior eye contact, always a must for the skilled charmer.
Chapter 11. The second signal of the flick. When you are listening, superior eye contact requires an additional skill that increases the naturalness of your eye contact. It also helps to avoid the possibility of intimidation that intense eye contact can produce. Additionally, it suggests the depth of your involvement with the person and in what she or he is saying. It is called the flick. What is the click? Flicking is the simple act of shifting your gaze from one of the person's eye to the other while you are listening. If you want to see the flick in action the next time you are watching television and there is a love scene where the young girl is looking into the young man's eyes and turn down the sound as she gazes into his eyes, watch how her eyes flick from his eye on one to the other. He will do the same. She will even create a triangular flick between his eyes and lips, making her eye contact very intimate and very sensual. Their eye movement mutually tells them how much their minds and feelings are actively engaged with each other. Genuine listening versus phony listening. You have probably experienced the reverse of this total engagement. Someone has been looking at you and very possible making 100% eye contact, but you know the lights were on but there was no one home. The other person was engaging in phony listening. He was not listening to you. His eyes had that glazed fucking look which immediately confirmed your first suspicion. He was not really interested in you or what you had to say. What caused that fucking look? It's the lack of eye activity. The person's eyes seemed to be locked in one place, just staring at you, and the longer he just sat there, the more uncomfortable and even angry you felt. Move your eyes. If you want people to see that you are listening, your eyes must move. Just like you saw on a TV, the more eye activity there is, the more you will appear to be involved. The less eye activity, the less you will be appear involved. And where there is no eye activity, there will seems to be no involvement at all. A perfect example of no activity, no involvement was the presidential candidate and political gadfly Ross Perot. Whenever you saw him on TV, either when he was speaking or listening, he rarely moved his eyes. He never seemed to blink and he just stared. This glaring absence of eye activity indicated he was not considering any other opinions. He was not weighing the value of merit of what was being said. His mind was made up and he was interested only in what he was going to say next. Your tools for charming others. Once you have mastered the art of prolonged eye contact, begin at home to practice and learn the technique of flicking. The next time you are listening to someone, concentrate on shifting your eyes back and forth between their eyes every now and then. Don't overdo it. You don't want to appear as though you have developed a tic. After some practice, you will quickly find you don't have to try to flick, it will just happen by itself. If you are concerned about how often you should flick, just watch someone who is a really good attentive listener. Observe people when they are engaged in two-way conversation at work, at social engagement, or even on TV. The way they use their eyes will give you a good sense of what is appropriate. Eye flicks are one of the best signals that tell a speaker that she has captured your interest. Now let us look at another way to express charm. Chapter 12. The third signal, head tilts. The motions you make with your body and head exert an inordinate influence on other people. Even dogs know this trick. If you have a dog or maybe cat, maybe Or bad, another bad, you probably sometimes feel that he is listening to you and that he understands you. This is why they say that dog is a man's best friend. There is a valuable lesson to be learned from your dog. Run on how to look inquisitive. Many years ago, unbeknownst to me, my wife Nikki brought home a young puppy. She had not meant to ignore me in making this a decision on her own, but had fallen in love with the dog. When I arrived home that evening, bingo, there was a very cute, very spotted Dalmatian puppy. Cute. I knelt down to say hello. Just at the moment to jump up to say hello, there was an immediate and painful collision between her muscles and my muscles. And the result, I broke my lip, yeah. But regardless of our first meeting, as the days, weeks, and months went by, Pepper became the love of both of our lives. We often talked to her as stuff she could understand, and when we spoke, Pepper would always tilt her head this way and that. She looked for all the world as stuff she could understand of our every word, and now, come as tell us that is impossible. But she sure looked at stuff, she knew what we were saying. If you do the same occasionally tilt your head slightly to one side of as you listen to someone tell you something, it will give you a more intense inquiring look. It's as stuff you are screwing you focus more tightly on the speaker. If you use this technique when the speaker is talking about something she thinks is significant, you will look very attentive and involved. She will find this little gesture of yours very charming. Your tools for charming others. The next time someone is talking to you, especially when it is something that is important to her, try a small tilt of your head to either side. You might even practice in front of a mirror before you try it in person just to see how it looks. And here is another rule. Tilt your head to listen, straighten up to speak, and then practice combining all three of the methods you have learned thus far. Use direct eye contact with each person in every conversation. Flick your gaze from eye to eye and tilt your head to the left or right when someone is speaking to you. They are all part of the system of signals that great listeners used to say. I'm totally focused on what you're saying, and they are small but very powerful indicators of the depth of your listening and the degree of your involvement in a conversation. Chapter 13. The fourth signal, head nods. Head nodding is another powerful technique in listening and appearing charming to others. Some people tend to nod instinctively and some don't nod very much at all. If you watch the reaction of people when they are listening, you will see how valuable head nods can be. When they are absent, the listener's charm and energy are dramatically diminished. Run an aiding noodles to your listening technique. A television reporter once interviewed me in my home. She arrived with a cameraman in town who took over my office to set his lighting, and in the meantime we chatted, and she gave me a sense of what questions she might ask, and then the interview began. As we talked, I realized that the cameraman was keeping the camera focused only on me and never once on her, and I thought, if this continues, I will end up being a talking head. It will be all me and just her voice in the background, and that idea didn't please me at all. And when we finished, it proceeded to get the cameraman to film her doing a variety of reaction, and I watched curiously, and then I asked, why did you record your reaction separately? She replied, I wanted to do the interview in your office, and I couldn't get two cameras, and one to be on you and one on me, and how can I add them to the original tape when I'm editing? I must have look puzzles. So she continued, if I cannot get both of your reaction, I have no choice but to record them separately. She smiled and said, we call them noodles. I said, not this. But won't they come across as funny? She laughed and said, no, not it. If they are done well, I can promise you the viewers won't be bothered by them in the slightest. Convention. I saw the interview myself, and I must say I was surprised at how authentic her nods look. 3 ways to nod. Head nods are strong indicators of how intensely you are listening and what you are thinking and feeling. And there are actually 3 different kinds of head nods: the slow, the faster, and the very fast. Each has its own special meaning and usefulness. Most people will recognize them. First, there is a very slow head nod, which means I'm following you, I'm thinking about you. The slow head nod does not necessarily mean that you are agree. Second, there is a slightly faster head nod and which says you are right, I agree. And the third, there is the much faster head nod which is I agree and I'm excited by what I'm hearing. Try them on your friends and see the results. Your tools for charming others. Nodding signals to other people that you are warm, friendly, and paying attention. It's an important element of charm, and develop the habit of nodding and acknowledging the other people when they are speaking. When you forget to nod and just listen without moving, it can be disconcerting to most speakers. Chapter 14. The fifth signal, whole body language. When you are seated, how you position your body and the way you sit signals the degree of interest you have in the person speaking and what the person is saying. When you lean towards someone, it is a stuff you are saying with your body. I find you fascinating. You are drawing me toward you with a magnetic force. Leaning away may suggest I'm bored. I can think of a dozen things I would rather be doing than talking to you. Everything counts. As a rule of thumb, try to keep your whole body turned toward the other person. If you cross your legs, do so with your top leg and knee pointed toward the person. Make sure your arms are unfolded and use your hands for emphasis when you speak. In this way, you create a clear picture of openness and receptivity. When you are standing, it's important to monitor the distance between you and the other person to decide how much space is appropriate. Check your own reaction when the people get too closer or too far from you. Then apply what you have learned in positioning yourself with others. If a person tends to inch closer to you, then you are too far away. If the person tends to ease away from you, then you are invading his or her comfort circle. The circle of communication. Imagine three concentric circles with you as the center point, and the first circle is about 2 feet from you to the other person. This is the personal or intimate space, reserved for a romantic partner and family members. If you invade this space as a business or social acquaintance, you will make the other person distinctly uncomfortable. Your reaction is likely to be that the person is trying to intimidate you by getting in your face. And the second circle is 2 to 6 feet away from you, and is this space appropriate for social or business acquaintances? When you want to be charming, be sure to stand, sit, and talk with this distance, no closer and no farther away. The third circle is from 8 or 10 feet outward, and this is the circle protected distance or safety, used between yourself and the stranger. Any sudden movement by someone you don't know from this space into your social space closer than 8 feet will cause you to become alert and aware. Speak with your body. Whether you are standing or sitting, when you deliberately want to say with your body, I think what you are saying is mesmerizing. Lean in or move slightly closer, but make sure you don't intrude into the comfort circle. In one very funny episode of Seinfeld, Jerry refers to Elaine's latest date as a closer talker. When he talks to anyone, he stands so close that the other person literally bends backward, trying to avoid his face being in their face, and this kind of person is trying too hard and comes off as aggressive and insensitive. Your tools for charming others. Next time you are speaking with someone, turn your whole body toward him or her and give the person your complete attention. If you are sitting lean toward the person as if you are hanging on every word, watch the mouth and eyes. Gently flicking or shifting your gaze from one eye to the other while you are listening. And try leaning slightly forward rather than sitting upright or leaning backward. If you cross your legs, do so with your top leg and knee pointing toward the other person. When you are standing, make sure you are maintaining a comfortable distance between you and the other person and face the person directly. Stand 2 to 4 feet away and shift your weight slightly forward onto the balls of your feet, and this movement will be imperceptible to the other person, but he will feel that you are fully engaged with what he is saying. Remind yourself by saying to yourself, energy forward. Always keep your whole body turned toward the person speaking. Unfold your arms and use your hands in any motivation when you speak. If people are saying something that is important or significant, lean a little farther in. If this is something amusing, relax by sitting or leaning back.
Chapter 15, the sixth signal, body language to avoid. Just as positive body language dramatically increases your charm quotient, there are certain body positions that affect people in a negative way, and many poor listeners are guilty of them. You may inadvertently be using this in undesirable position yourself. If so, you will want to avoid these charm busters in the future. Poor listeners make the mistake of turning their heads toward a person when they are speaking, but allowing the body to be inclined away from the speaker. This suggests that you don't really care about what the person is saying, but you are pretending that you do. Poor listeners sit with their legs crossed so that their leg and knee points away from the speaker, thereby appearing to close themselves off to the message. Another negative message that destroys any chance of your being charming is when you slump in your chair as if you want to ooze through the back and get away from the speaker. One of the best ways to counter the negative tendency is to sit up straight and not allow your back to touch the back of the chair. And often, people make the mistake of holding their arms when they are listening, and the speaker views this posture as a way of blocking out what he is saying. But you can avoid this by making sure that your arms are unfolded and your hands are open to signal honesty, sincerity, and genuine interest. Observe the behavior of others. When you see one or more of this negative signal, the listener is telling at an unconscious level that he is either not interested in what you are saying or he is completely opposed to it. In a personal relationship, especially at home, these contrary signals may indicate that the other person is agitated about something else and cannot pay attention to you until that issue is resolved. Dr. Albert Mehrabian of UCLA conducted a seminal study of communication some years ago and concluded that in face-to-face conversation, your body language conveys 55% of the message you are sending, and your tone of voice conveys another 38% of the message, and the words themselves are responsible for only 7%. It is amazing how quickly others read your body language and draw conclusions about you, even if they are incorrect. That's why you must always be conscious of what you are saying by the way you position your body in conversation. It turns out that women are vastly more sensitive to body language than are men, and research shows that a woman can join a social gathering of 50 couples and assess the state of each of their relationship within about 10 minutes of entering the room. A man could spend hours in the same room and have no idea what was happening in the relationship of the other couples. Your tools for charming others. Be aware of your body language at home and at work, and consciously decide to send a positive message of warmth, concern, and involvement with the way you sit and stand. Observe the body language for others to see what kind of message they are sending, and turn down the volume on your television and try to ascertain what the different actors are thinking or saying. Chapter 16, the seventh signal, vocal reassurance. You will notice that good active listeners always make a little noise like or other assorted sounds. That what we like to call vocal reassurance. They are clear indicators of someone who is paying close attention, and they are easily identified and much appreciated by the speaker. They increase your charm quotient. Your tools for charming others. Make reassuring sounds each time you listen to another person. Allow your instinct to guide you as to when to use them, and combine your vocal reassurance with good eye contact and head nodding. Together, this signals tell a speaker that you are paying attention and thinking about what she is saying. If the other person starts to become more intense or excited, make your vocal reassurance a little louder to reflect the degree of your interest. Chapter 17, the eighth signal, verbal reassurances. Vocal reassurances are essential to charm, but if you combine them with the verbal reassurances, you'll double their impact. Eye contact, flicks, body inclines, and head nods and tilts together make a great impression on people. But once you add the power of vocal and verbal commentary, you become a totally charming conversationalist. The first type of verbal reassurance consists of non-committal words and phrases, and they are defined as non-committal because they don't necessarily mean that you agree with what is being said. Words and phrases such as "I see," "really," "well, is that so?" reassure people that you're listening, keeping in step with them, but you remain neutral. Non-committal words or phrases are used as a polite reassurances in general or casual conversation. They fill the air during small talk at the cocktail parties and the other social event. When you are prepared to commit yourself and want to agree or support what is being said, you then use words and phrases such as "yes" without questions, or "I agree, absolutely," or "you hit the nail right on the head," and the like. At this time, you become an ally in the conversation. You have taken sides before you offer such a comments that every convey agreement and always be sure this is what you want to do. When processing, a person's words, tone of voice also has impact. Have you ever said something to make someone else angry then? Declare your innocence by saying, "but I only said much such and such." Usually the other person responds immediately by saying, "it's not what you said, it's your tone of voice." Your tools for charming others. Introduce vocal and verbal acknowledgments into your everyday conversation, especially when you are on the phone. Use vocal reassurances, our basic sounds when you don't want to sound too involved or want to remain neutral on a subject. Include more verbals and the specific words of agreement when you want to show you agree with and support the speaker.
Chapter 18. Practice being charming with friends. You have heard it said that practice makes perfect, and the truth is that imperfect practice makes perfect. You must be willing to make a few mistakes and feel bit of awkward at times. If you are going to master any skills, especially the skill of charm, the rule is that anything worth doing well is worth doing poorly at first. To develop your charm quotient by bringing all your communication skills together, you should ask a friend to help you. Think of the person as your sparring partner with whom you can make mistakes before you get into the actual ring of social and business communication, and this type of practice can benefit both of you. Begin by explaining what you are trying to do. Explain to your friend the importance of the various elements of listening and becoming a charming conversationalist. During this exercise, your friends should be seated in front of you as though you are having a cup of coffee together, and you are going to try to react to your friend's conversation without talking back. Just by listening, then you will be asking your partner for feedback on how much you seem to be involved. Ask your friend to avoid asking questions, but whether to talk to you at length about anything that comes to mind rather than like delivering a monologue. Also point out at the very start that you are serious about learning these listening skills, and it would help you a lot if there were no kidding around, no distraction when you practice this exercise, and here is why. Run on taking listening skills seriously. Several years ago, my wife studied to become a sangoma in KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa. That's the Zulu equivalent of a shaman. Her training was long and arduous and took place over 3 years, and because we live in San Diego for 6 months each year, she was given permission to divide her training into the 3-month session, and the sole condition was that I would help her continue her training when she was absent from Africa. The exercise that we used to train her was similar to 20 questions stuff, much more serious. It was designed to teach her to trust her sense and intuition so that she could see with her mind's eye. And the similarity to the parlor game nonetheless stuck some weird part of my funny point. I began by asking, "Is it bigger than a bread box?" Nikki laughed and said, "That's funny, but please stop horsing around." Taking no heed, I then said, Is it seem smaller than a bread box? I should have known better." I have never experienced a room where the temperature drops so radically and rapidly. Talk about being frustrated, but I learned this lesson. If you agree to have another person practice something, remember that if it's serious for one, it should be serious for both of you. Your tools to fool charming others. With a friend, practice eye contact, eye flicks, head tilts, body inclines, head nods, and vocal and verbal reassurances. Try them one at a time in stages, like first eye contact, flicks, and head nods and tilts, second vocal and verbal reassurance, and third body inclines. You may have to arrange a few practice sessions to run through its technique truly, but once you feel you have got the hang of them individually, you can put them all together. After 3 or 4 minutes, stop and ask your helper questions such as, did I appear to be really listening? Did I seem to be in the moment? Did you feel as though I care about what you were talking about? Did I seem totally involved with you? If the response is less than enthusiastic, try again until you get the hang of it. Eventually, you will hone your ability to be an attentive listener, and you will have it for a life, and you will be able to make each person you meet feel good about him or herself. And feeling good is what charm is all about. Chapter 19. Be careful with advice. Yeah. In chapter 18, you practice an exercise where you had to react to a friend's conversation without talking back, just by listening. And now let's bring home another point about how to practice attentive listening. Run on being a patient listener. Many years ago, my wife and I were at home having dinner. She obviously had faced a pretty heavy day at the office and was uptight about the day's event. She began to tell me about the ins and outs of a problem she was having with a member of her staff. She began quite calmly, but soon developed a high head of steam. As she spoke, her anger seemed to feed in on itself, and she became more and more incensed. Unfortunately, I was not really watching or listening to her. My brain was busy with the answer to her problem that had just popped into my head, and unfortunately, straight out of my mouth, look, if you had given her the opportunity to correct her mistake, maybe blah blah. She interrupted me. What are you talking about? Are you saying it was my fault? Well, no, that was as far as I got. Who asked you? Who asked you? She yelled. All I wanted you to do was to listen and nod your head a couple of times. But I only wanted to help. You can help by keeping your opinions to yourself and listening. She said, I don't want any advice when I'm so angry. Nobody wants advice when they are that angry. She was right, nobody does. The moral of this story is that no matter how good you think you have become in displaying charming behavior, being a patient listener is the glue that holds all your skills together. Your attentive silence at the appropriate time demonstrates your interest, patience, and caring. Your tools for charming others. The next time someone comes to you with a problem or difficult choice, turn it around and ask, what do you think you should do? And then listen patiently without interrupting. If a woman asks a man for his opinion about what to wear, she has usually made up her own mind already and is just seeking confirmation. You have a 50% chance of being wrong. Instead, you ask her, which outfit do you think looks the best? Whatever her answer, you agree and say, that's the one I was going to choose. You will sound like a genius and charming as well. Chapter 20. The Power of Patient Listening. Before you stop listening and start speaking, always take the time to consider what's going on with the person or people you are speaking with. That is, their emotional level. No matter how many ideas or insight may occur to you, if the other person is excited or angry or unhappy, it's still listening time for you. Be patient and give them a chance to let off steam. When they are ready, they will ask for your opinion, and if they are looking for answer, they will ask questions. Sometimes a person's emotions and the listener logic are like oil and water, very difficult to mix. Your tools for charming others. Whenever you are attentively listening, and the person speaking seems to be very emotional. Listen with added patience before you say anything and let the person talk and get all of his or her anger or emotion out before you attempt to jump in and offer any suggestion. And most important, be careful about giving advice unless someone asks for it. Your sympathetic listening will be much appreciated. Chapter 21. Be quick to smile and laugh. There is no question that smiling and laughing are a clear indicator of how much you are enjoying being with someone. When the occasion and the subject allow it, it'll always be quick to smile and laugh. A genuine smile involves the muscles that surround your mouth and your eyes. And when you smile, make sure you get all of your face to smile and let it go right up to your eyes. And now I don't mean grinning like the Cassier cat at everything that's being said or laughing at every mediocre quip or joke. Overdoing it could raise suspicion that you are being phony or too openly trying to curry favor. Remember also that smiles that appear genuine don't switch off abruptly. Real smiles seems to linger for a moment or two. A smile that does not linger really is not a smile, and there are very good physiological reasons to allow yourself to smile and laugh easily and naturally, and here is an illustration. Run on how humor is contagious. In my early days as a theater director, the very first comedy I directed was Come Blow Your Horn by Neil Simon. It was a grand Broadway hit loaded with funny lines and delightfully entertaining cast of characters in amusing situation. When the cast and I got together to read through the play for the first time, we all slapped our thighs, held our ribs, cackled, howled, and generally revealed our Neil Simon's wizardly. During rehearsals and as the days went by, we all laughed less and less. A few days before opening the night, we completed a run-through of the performance and it went smoothly and was word perfect, but it was flat. Nobody in the cast, including me, cackled, tittered, or even cracked a smile. It was like we were doing Ibsen rather than Simon. I sat there wondering, what happened so funny in the first place? Opening night, there was a full house of dignitaries, critics, and well turned out the theater goers. I sat in my usual place in the back row and on the aisle, and have never been so enthused. The light dimmed, the curtain went up, and the play began. Within minutes, the audience began to laugh and laugh and laugh, and what was most interesting, I was laughing too. How come? It was the same stuff that I would heard during 3 weeks of rehearsal, and that I would quit finding funny, and yet here I was laughing again. Why? The answer was infection. Smiling and laughing is very infectious. I laugh because they laugh, which refreshed my memory of what I had found so funny before. I went many times to see the production in my first successful attempt at directing comedy, and I laughed almost as much at a very performance as so. There was a lesson here for everyone. When you charm, you are being the audience for other people, and the infection rule is just as true. When you smile and laugh, others will be inclined to smile and laugh right back at you. A caveat: watch out for people who smile with only one side of their mouth turned up. One should be cautious about lopsided smiles. They could be half-hearted or less than honest. Your tools for charming others: the next time you are in a conversation, wait for the right time to show a smile, as the conversation dictates. If the conversation and the speaker are serious, you look serious. If the talk is about light, amusing things, encourage yourself to smile. You don't necessarily have to agree with what is being said. You simply have to match to the other person's mood. If it's being enthusiastic and you want to charm, allow yourself to smile and with her enthusiasm. Chapter 22. Be quick to praise. We all enjoy recognition, especially if we have accomplished something we think is worthwhile. When people you are with talk about things they are evidently proud of, there is a simple way to intensify their pleasure. Be quick to praise the wisdom, generosity, thoughtfulness, quickness, cleverness, or whatever is appropriate. You can be sure they will regard your praise as another indication of your charm. Appreciation and praise are vitally important to all of us. It is the fuel in the furnace of motivation. Without recognition and praise, many of us would perform well below our potential, and research indicates that many employees respond more positively to praise than to a rise. Remember when you have seen your child, spouse, or friend or coworker light up with a pleasure because you praise or admire or show appreciation toward them. Remember how it feels when it happens to you. Run on a critic's reviews. I can remember as clearly as if it were yesterday. My very first major theater review in the newspaper. I was directing a play by Maxim Gorky called The Lower Dub, and it was my first professional production. Dub is a great classical work, but a great challenge to cut your teeth on as a director. Naturally, I was flattered at being given the opportunity and frightened by the immense of responsibility. Early the next morning after opening night, I raced out to get the newspaper. I sat in my car for what seemed like an hour before working up the nerve to open them and see it was thumbs up or thumbs down. Then I looked at lunch. I opened the newspaper and with a shaking finger turned to the theater page, and there was it. The headline, Great Play Gorky, Great Production Arden. My stomach contracted with pleasure. Then I read what the critic had to say. He saw my faults as well as my virtues, and for him the virtues obviously had outweighed the faults. And I was at the beginning of my career as a director, and his carefully weighed price contributed considerably to my motivation, momentum, and pleasure. And that's what price can do. And people really rarely get enough of it. Your tools for charming others. One of the best definitions of self-esteem is how much a person considers herself or himself to be price-worthy. The more you genuinely prize people's behavior, the more they like and respect themselves, and the better they feel towards you. To be most effective in giving praise, you should follow these guidelines. First, be specific. The more specific the praise, the greater impact it has on the person feeling, and the more likely it is to motivate the person to perform even better in that area in the future. Instead of saying you are a great secretary, you should say, you did a wonderful job on that proposal and getting it out so quickly yesterday. Second, prize immediately. The faster you prize people after they have done something praiseworthy, the better they feel and the more likely they are to repeat the action. And the third, praise for both large and small accomplishments. As Canon Blanchard says in the 1 Minute Manager, catch them doing something right. Praising others of their accomplishment is something most of us do not do often enough. You must be exception to the rule. Praise makes people feel wonderful about themselves and is the key element of charm. Chapter 23. Use the act as if principle. In 1905, William James of Harvard University, the father of American psychology, made a remarkable observation. He said that the best way to experience an emotion if you don't actually feel it is to pretend as if you already feel it until it becomes a reality. The repeated actions of enthusiasm soon generate the real feelings of enthusiasm. If you behave as though you are happy or excited, you will soon begin to feel happy or excited. Your outward behavior will create the corresponding inner feeling. You can control your actions. Psychologists have found that it is difficult for people to switch their emotion off and on at will. Emotions are not under the direct control of the will. Your actions, however, are largely under your control from moment to moment. By controlling your action, you can behave as if you already had the emotion you decide to have, similar to the outside-in approach in Chapter 8, so your action actually helped to create those emotions. Action trigger feelings. The act as if principle says that if you act as if you already felt a particular way, your action will soon trigger the feelings to go with them. When you meet with another person, act as if that other person is absolutely fascinating and treat the other person like a movie star or Nobel Prize winner and listen with your full attention and lean forward and hang on every word, nod, smile, and acknowledge, giving a continuous series of verbal and vocal resonance, and the effect will be electric. Very often, by using attentive listening techniques, you will be able to bring out the other person's insights and observation, which may amaze you. In no time at all, you will actually find yourself deeply interested in the other person. You will find her to be fascinating and her words to be intelligent and enjoyable. Actions affects feeling. In the same way, when you become accustomed to practicing the charm technique described in this book, you not only appear to be listening more convincingly, but you actually do listen more efficiently and remember more effectively. It's a step by getting your body, the outside, to do the right things. You promote the right attitude, the inside, and the right chemistry. By incorporating attentive listening technique into your life, the payoff is not only that you appear to be an involved and caring listener, but that you can actually become an involved and caring listener, which will prove to be much more rewarding for you as well as for the other people in your life. Your tools for charming others. Fake it until you make it. The next time you are talking to anyone in business or social, act as if the other person is absolutely fascinating. Hang on every word, lean forward with a great interest, and pretend for a moment that this person is going to give you $1,000,000 if he likes you. Act accordingly. In no time at all, you will find yourself deeply interested in the other person, and by some magical chemistry, this individual begin the share observation and insight that may surprise and delight you. Many lifelong friendships have started this way. Chapter 24. What you say and how you say it. The first step toward becoming a completely charming person is to become a great listener, and sooner or later, it will be your turn to speak. What you say and how you say it are essential ingredients in your ability to charm and persuade others. Run on speaking with charm. I have a delightful old friend, says William, a successful theater director for many years, and I acted in several of his productions. He was without doubt one of the most charming people I have ever met. He epitomized all the elements of charm that we have written about this book, and what most impressed me about him was the way he turned every word he uttered into a show of support, concern, interest, involvement, and caring. He had plenty of opinions of his own and many strong ones, but they were always communicated with respect as an exchange of ideas, not as competition. An essential speaking skill. There are several skills you will need when it is your turn to speak, and they will be covered over several chapters. Let's start again with eye contact, but from a different angle. Time magazine once scooped the other media and did the first major interview with Mikhail Gorbachev, then visiting Russian president. His ability to communicate with power and forcefulness his ideas on economic and political reform was one of the major reasons he ascended to the presidency of the USSR. One of the strongest communication skills was noted by the Time reporter who wrote, "The first thing you notice on meeting President Gorbachev are his eyes, their intensity, their directness, and their power." Few of us use eye contact well. Developing the skill is critical to increasing your ability to charm. The way you look at people. The rules used for eye contact when speaking are different from the rules used when a person is listening. When you are in one-on-one conversation with another person, look at the other person's eyes no more than 85% of the time. Maintaining eye contact all the time creates too much pressure. With that much eye contact, you virtually pin the other person to the wall. Instead of being charming, you come across as too intense. How do you feel when someone is talking to you and never takes her eyes off you? It can be intimidating and even threatening. I noticed the way villains in the movies use that kind of unyielding eye contact when they speak, and when you are speaking in a group, you should shift your gaze from person to person gently, one person at a time. Use your eye contact to reach out and include people in what you are saying, as if you were scooping them into the conversation. Everyone you are talking to should feel power of your warmth and attention. Your tools for charming others. Make a point of practicing good eye contact with anyone you to talk to, and be sure you don't overdo it. Look at the other person's eyes no more than 75% to 85% of the time. Otherwise, your risk become overbearing. Look deep into the person's eyes rather than superficially. It's a definitive way of saying, "I see you." Chapter 25. The look aside. When you are the one doing the talking, the look aside is a powerful communication technique. It is a casual glance to one side or another of the listener's head. When you momentarily redirect your focus from the person's eyes to the side of the face, look aside should be done casually and intermittently. Never look above the listener's head, because that will convince the listener that there is something or someone distracting you. Frequent looks below The listener's eyes will lead them to believe they might have food on their face or gravy on their clothes. Look aside are not meant to give you the opportunity to look at other things or people. Rather, they are there to release the listener from too much intensity coming from you in one-on-one conversation. They are essential. Your tools for charming others. The next time you are speaking with someone for any period of time, practice shifting your gaze to his right or left ear and then back to his mouth and eyes, and make sure your looks aside are short. Never for more than 2 or 3 seconds, otherwise you will look distracted. Remember that your objective is to maintain a good eye contact without making the other person uncomfortable.
Chapter 26: The Art of Speaking Slowly. Many people, because of excitement or nervousness, speak too fast and listen too little. People who speak too fast can be both frustrating and irritating. Have you ever been stuck in a traffic jam simply because you didn't have enough time to understand what the traffic reporter on the radio said? Near what off-ramp was the accident and what was the alternative route? If only this reporter didn't speak so fast. They are professionals. They don't know it's difficult to absorb a lot of information so quickly. If they would simply slow down, you would have time to grasp the situation and make the decision to take an alternative route. Have you ever received a message on your answering machine where the written telephone number was spoken so rapidly or incoherently that you couldn't get the last four numbers? You end up having to replay the message, sometimes more than once, to get the right number. Give people time to think. We all know people who fast talk and are difficult to listen to. You could even be more one of them. The trouble with fast talk is that it invariably creates negative impressions and virtually no positive ones. A fast talker gives you no time to think. And what kind of person comes to mind when you think of a fast talker? Don't you think of a used car salesman, a con artist, or someone who's trying to manipulate or hustle you into something that is not in your best interest? Fast talk makes the speaker sound less thoughtful and more self-centered, which affects how sincerely and honestly that person comes across. Such speakers seem interested only in what they have to say, and fast talk is a sure way to neutralize any opportunity for charm. Better speaking using the slow down technique. What is the solution for fast talk? There are two techniques you can use. The first, covered here, is simply to slow down, and the second is for you to learn how to use silences in the conversation. If you've been told many times that you speak too quickly and there is an internal monitor you can use to control speaking too fast, it's called your comfort zone. Just as we have comfort zones on the outside, and we're standing too close to someone is intrusive and too far away destroys intimacy, we have comfort zones inside too. When you are doing something unfamiliar or out of ordinary, you will often feel decidedly uncomfortable. You will have an almost often felt irresistible urge to go back to doing it the old way, even if the old way was not working all the time. We are all creatures of habit. We too easily slip into a rut and then resist all pressure to get out of it. We are always more comfortable doing things the way we have become accustomed to doing them, and it's like the ritual we go through when we get ready for the day. First the left shoes, then the right, and then lace the right one, and then the left. If you try to change the pattern, it feels odd. A simple experiment. In our seminars, we often ask people to fold their arms and notice which arm is on the top. Then we ask them to revolve their arms with the other arms on top. Try it yourself. Doesn't it feel old? This is the same feeling you have when you attempt to change an old habit, but all growth and personal development comes from forcing ourselves out of our comfort zones into the zone of discomfort. If we never challenge our discomfort zones, we will never change, and that includes changing for the better. Old habits die hard, and rapid speaking is among the most persistent of them. If it's a habit you are having trouble kicking, the very least you should do is making sure you slow down when you are making your more important points. This technique alone will create a perception that you are speaking more slowly overall. It is important that you keep practicing at speaking more slowly after a while, and you will start to develop a new comfort zone at your new pace of speaking. You will then feel uncomfortable when you speak too quickly because the slower speed is becoming more and more comfortable for you. And what's more important, you will find it's much more comfortable for your listeners too. Your tools for charming others. Here are the exercises you can use to stretch yourself out of your comfort zone and into the performance zone of higher achievement. First, get a tape recorder and tape yourself reading aloud. Speak at the speed that sounds uncomfortably slow to you, and your instinct may demand that you speak at your old speed, but pay no attention to it. And now, play back the recording. You will soon discover that although you sounded slow to yourself when you spoke, it will sound just right on the recording. You can check this out by asking a friend or family member to listen to your recording. And second, use the same technique during a conversation with a friend. Though the tempo may still feel too slow to you, it will almost certainly be fine for the listener. Remember, in the early stages of learning to slow your speech, you will and must feel uncomfortable. If not, then you're probably still speaking at your old quick speed. Chapter 27: The Eloquence of Silence. In the early days of his presidency, George Webers was judged to be a rather poor speaker. Sometimes it was almost painful to watch his bungle attempt to get his message across in his prepared speeches. Something happened along the way that improved his ability to speak more effectively. His IELTS hired some of the top speech writers in the business. But in addition to better speech material, there was something else. He learned to speak with a greater clarity and impact by using pauses, even if they were used too often at times. The change was significant, and approval rating for his speech delivery rose. Pausing gives a person time to think, to keep control of the content, and it gives the audience a chance to relate to what's being said. Chapter 27: The Eloquence of Silence. In the early days of his presidency, George W. Bush was judged to be a rather poor speaker. Sometimes it was almost painful to watch his bungle attempt to get his message across in his prepared speeches. Something happened along the way that improved his ability to speak more effectively. His IELTS hired some of the top speech writers in the business, but in addition to better speech material, there was something else. He learned to speak with a greater clarity and impact by using pauses, even if they were used too often at times. The changes were significantly, and approval ratings for his speech delivery rose. Pausing gives a person time to think and to keep control of the content, and it gives the audience a chance to relate to what's being said. You can become a better speaker simply by pausing for a second or two at various intervals during your delivery. It is during the silences that your listeners will have the chance to reflect on what you say, and they are about to picture their minds what you are talking about, and they have the opportunity to weight your meanings, to connect and respond to your feelings. And in addition, pauses allows listeners to have an inner dialogue with you. They actually talk in their heads, expressing their inner thoughts. As a listener, haven't you often found yourself saying these things in your head like, I disagree, or what a good idea, or I read something about that, etc. The more inner dialogue you inspire, the stronger your connection with your listeners will be. Here is an important secret about the art of speaking well, and you cannot go wrong with silence. Even if you don't always pick the ideal place for a silent, and your listener won't know the difference, and he will be too involved with you and what you're saying in a conversation. Nobody thinks, now wait a minute, that pause was in the wrong place. Your tools for charming others. Practice pausing at the end of the thought or just after in having made a key point, and this technique helps listeners to know where one thought ends and another's begins. And remember to pause especially after you have said something important, complicated, or unusual. Let the listener digest what you have said while giving yourself time to think and to breathe. Chapter 28: Excessive fillers are charm killers. Inexperienced, unprepared, or nervous speakers often fill their sentences with sounds such as or they are known as the fillers.
Fillers are a way of creating the space to give us time to think, and we use them in an attempt to hold into the listener's attention while we are trying to find the right thoughts and words. Your fillers are saying, don't stop listening. I haven't finished yet. Just hang on. I can be terribly irritating when somebody ums or ers their way through a conversation. You may begin to get the knot or in a pit of your stomach, or your mind may be saying, for heaven's sake, get on with it, unless you have a particular desire to cling to these peculiar and incomprehensible noises and get rid of them. Nobody likes to hear them. Fillers are charm busters. Your tools for charming others. The best way to eliminate fillers is to slow down your speaking style and deliberately use more silences. It is as simple as that. If you use silences, fillers disappear. Whatever you do, don't be overly self-conscious in trying to avoid fillers. You don't know where and when they are going to happen, and trying to anticipate an unconscious act could drive you crazy. Instead, concentrate on using silences every time you feel an error or emerging from your lips. Incorporate silences into your everyday conversations, especially whenever you realize that you are speaking too quickly, and the fillers will take care of themselves. Chapter 29, Charming People with Your Voice. The sound of your voice has a profound influence on the mood and receptivity of the person you are talking to, and the mere tone of your voice accounts for 38% of your message. Who would you prefer to listen to? Someone with a high, shrill voice that pierces your ears and makes you wish you were somewhere else? Or someone who is able to charm you with a warm, full voice that makes you feel as that you are being wrapped in a cashmere blanket? It's not contest. Cashmere wins every time. What about monotonous and boring voices? Blah 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 voices, we call them. They are sure to reduce both the attention and the receptivity of the listener. You have no use your voice the way storytellers do, with animation and colors that makes whatever you talk about, even if it is the weather or the stock market, sound interesting. Resolve to be the storyteller rather than a talking text machine. Lower your voice. When you want to sound close, friendly, warm, reassuring, intimate, or caring when you speak, keep your voice in the lower range, where the deeper sounds are. The lower the middle toned are also great when you want to reason with other person or show that you care or are being thoughtful. Also, to remind yourself to slow down, it's very difficult to be close, friendly, and warm and thoughtful when you are speaking too quickly. Most of us tend to slow down naturally when expressing our deeper emotions. Try this. Say quickly, I'm deeply concerned about you. You mean a lot to me. And now try it more slowly. I am deeply concerned about you, and you mean a lot to me. It will sound much more sincere and real. Pick up the tempo. On the other hand, if you have a flat voice, push yourself out of your comfort zone and pick up the tempo when you want to sound excited or energized. Use the upper tones of your voice, but not too high. Vary your speed and tone and choose your pace and tone based on what you are talking about and the mood you want to create. Deeper vocal sounds suggest size and range. Higher sounds convey smallness and weaknesses. If you hear a deep barking behind a door, you don't expect to see a chihuahua. If you hear high-pitched barking, you don't expect to see a great Dane. Powerful people deliberately speak more slowly and with the lower tones. Your tools for charming others. First, select an interesting chapter or article from a book or magazine that is easy to read and speak. Then read this material into a tape recorder at a leisurely pace. Gently lower your voice toward the deeper, warmer tones that you can comfortably reach, and don't force it. Let it come naturally, forming you tone up and down, and repeat this exercise until you are pleased with the result. And second, play this pleasant sounding voice of yours over and over again at home and in your car as your new voice imprints itself on your subconscious. You will find yourself speaking in that same tone of voice in your everyday conversation. When you use the deepest sounds more frequently, the overall perception of your listener form is that of a richer and warmer voice and a more charming personality. Chapter 30. Be a charming conversationalist. Your charm quotient is entirely determined by the way you look, listen, and speak to people, but there is an additional quality that those who have charm enjoy. They are great conversationalists. Being a focused and a patient listener is essential to charm. Using a pleasant voice and not talking too fast also raise your charm quotient. Another key to being charming is to be sensitive to what others want and don't want to talk about. If the people you are speaking with want to unload their feelings or just talk about trivia, let them. It is true that there are those who will go on forever about things that are unimportant or boring to you, and it's hard to be charming when you are being bored out of your crowd. Some people will talk endlessly about their problems and their personal life. You don't want to be impolite, so what you can do, I don't know, you can answer it by yourself. Usually you have two choices. One is changing the subject 180 degrees. The other is trying to grin and bear it. But when you have decided that enough is enough, there is another choice for the true charmer. You can use a well-placed questions, and for example, a 180-degree change would be if you were to take over the conversation and switch abruptly to another topic. If someone is pouring out of her heart about a pet, a dog, you suddenly start talking about your interest in galactic travel. A better way is to do a 20 or 30 degree save and slip in a comment about your own appreciation of dogs. Then you might parlay into a question about dog shows. What do you think of the best in-show peak at Westminster Kennel Club this year? Or performing dogs, dogs for the blind, rescue dogs, or some tidbit about pets and pets. Your tools for charming others. In your next conversation with a friend or colleague, look for an opening to change the subject obliquely into a slightly different direction, 20 or 30 degrees of center, so the change of conversation is almost imperceptible. Try interjecting a well-placed question. While you may not be able to change the subject entirely, you will have charmed someone by keeping the conversation meaningful to that person. It's a wonderful opportunity to be creative while focusing on someone else's needs instead of your own. And making the others feel special is one of the key to becoming a disarmingly charming person. Chapter 31. Steer the conversation. The purpose of steering the conversation is not to dominate it, but to make sure that, with your support, it continues to go in the direction to the other person wishes so that his or her interests and involvement are constantly engaged. Imagine yourself in a social situation. You are sitting there alone, minding your own business with a plate of snacks in one hand and a glass of wine in the other. Out of the blue, somebody launches at you and immediately starts talking about himself. I do this, I do that, blah blah blah. In 10 seconds flat, you are thinking, how can I get out of here? And now let's imagine the same situation, only this time somebody comes over to you in 10 seconds flat, has you to talk about yourself. Who would you prefer to spend time with? There is no contest. Talk about what the other person cares about. All of us enjoy talking about the topic we are interested in, especially when the listener seems to enjoy it too. When people discuss a topic that's important to them, they tend to reveal a great deal about themselves to sympathetic listeners. They show their likes and dislikes, their preferences, beliefs, ideas. When you are listeners in a conversation, you must listen closely to discover a various path you can take in steering the conversation. What you are looking for is a way to keep up your ends of the conversation while encouraging others to take over as much of the conversation as they like. An added bonus is that you can often learn as much from people with whom you have little in common as those with whom you agree. An open mind is a receptive mind. It creates the enduring manner of the charming person. Your tools for charming others. The surest way to steer any conversation is to ask questions that begin with who, what, why, when, where, and how. Any question that starts with one of these words cannot be answered with a yes or no. The response requires facts, figures, feelings, and details, and the person who asks these questions has control. One of the most powerful ways to elicit reactions, responses, and opinions is to ask the questions, how do you feel about that? What do you think about that? Whenever a story or anecdote is told, and these questions almost always elicit a more extensive answer, and the person speaking will think that you are both charming and intelligent just for asking. Chapter 32. Do your homework. Anytime you are getting together with someone socially or professionally whom you particularly want to impress, do your homework. Learn what you can about that person before you actually meet. It's the best way to be charming and interesting to others. As Dale Carnegie once said, you can make more friends in a day by being interested in others than you could in a year by trying to get them to be interested in you. A good investment, the higher the value you place on the relationship, the more time you should invest in learning about the person before you meet. Find out as much as you can about her or his likes and dislikes, hobbies, educational background, business interests, and social activities. Armed with this information, you can lead the conversation in many different directions that you know the person will enjoy. The idea is to know more about these people than they know about you. Seek first to understand. Sometimes it's not possible to obtain information, especially if you are meeting someone for the first time. In this type of situation, you must be completely focused on the other person. When you first meet, talk about yourself as little as possible. There is a wise old saying, you never learn anything when you are talking. And think about that. You cannot talk and listen to people at the same time. It's only when they talk and you listen that you will learn anything about them. If they seem reluctant to open the conversation, you take over it with the intention of getting them to talk as soon as possible. You can begin by talking about what's current or prominent in the news, or by making reference to a recent hit movie or popular television programs, books, sports, or vision. If you are mentioning a movie, ask them what they have seen lately and ask what kind of movies they prefer, and so on. Find a subject of interest. Here is an example of how you can piggyback on what another person is talking about. Suppose the person says, I'm so frustrated by the way people drive nowadays. There is no consideration for anyone else and nobody has patience anymore. They just want to get to wherever they are going as fast as they can, and you would be better to get out of the way. Let's analyze the possibilities in this simple statement. It's safe to say that this person has a bee in his bonnet about something, but what? About driving in general? Perhaps about consideration behavior, maybe about other people's lack of patience. Possibly there are three different directions you could take the conversation safely. You could reply with, I agree, and then proceed to briefly talk about an incident that happened to you. That approach is particularly useful if the other person seems to be running out of conversation. Always remember that the more you can learn about the other people during a conversational exchange, the greater will be your potential influence on them. The more and better questions you can ask that piggyback on their background and interests, the more they will find you to be charming. Your tools for charming others. Remember, the person who asks questions has control. There are three powerful questions you can ask of any new acquaintance that will enable you to control the conversation and be charming at the same time. First, you ask, what sort of work do you do? And most people are deeply interested in their work. It plays a central role in their life and is a major source of their identity. They love to talk about it and describe what they do to others, and then, when they have told you what they do, you ask with a great interest and curiosity, how did you get into that line of work anyway? And this question will invariably be answered with all kind of details about the person's history, experiences, and backgrounds, and all explained in the form of a life story. And sometimes the story can go on indefinitely, and people usually feel that the story of their careers to this point is one of the most fascinating stories ever told. The speaker may slow down periodically to determine if you are really interested or if you are just being polite. Whenever he pauses in his story, you ask, and then what did you do? He will immediately expand on his last comment and continue telling you more of his story. Whenever he slows, asks, and then what did you do? He will be completely charmed by you. You can ask other similar questions as well and tell me about that. How did you feel? What did they do? And what happened next? If you like, you can introduce your own thoughts. When you do, say something about yourself. Resist the temptation to become too talkative. to pass the ball back to the other person, and you're comment about yourself without another questions to get the other person's talking again. Chapter 33. Keep the ball in their court. Charming people keep up their end of the conversation by passing the ball back and forth easily and naturally. Your goal is to participate actively in the conversation while at the same time encouraging your conversational counterpart to take over as much as they want. You are like a tennis player who concentrates on keeping the ball in the play. Like a tennis coach, you hit the ball so your student can reach it and get an opportunity to hit it back. The longer the rally lasts, the more valuable it is for the student as well as for the conversationalist. Reading each other. Most conversations begin with polite social banter, and this light exchanges allow both parties to gauge the mood and receptivity of the other person. You can then shift the conversation to more profound matters, and depending on what the direction of you want to go. One of the best ways to keep the conversationalist ball in play is to use question that spins off from what you are already talking about. For example, imagine that at the beginning of the conversation you begin talking about the food. You say, "Have you tasted these snacks? And there are delicious." And the other person replies, then you speak again, introducing a new question. "I must say, my enjoyment of food always threatens my waistline. What type of foods do you prefer?" Whatever the answer, you agree. "Me too." You say, "I love most foods as long as they are well prepared and tasty. Do you eat out a lot?" The other person gives the answer, then you continue. "I think the best home cooking type restaurant in town is blah blah blah. Name your favorite restaurant." The comment leads into the next questions. "Have you ever been there?" And the person answers, and then you continue. "You must try it. You just about everything to make it exceptional. Do you have any restaurant that you particularly enjoy?" For each answer, you continue with a follow-up questions. "Do you enjoy eating out?" and so on. Obviously, the conversations could go in 100 different directions, but as you can see, the basic idea is to keep the conversation bouncing back to the other person. It's not complicated or difficult to do. It just involves putting your ego on the back burner and attending to the needs or interests of the other persons. It is the key to being charming. Your tools for charming others. In conversations, remember that it is not about you. It is about the other people around you. Most people are so concerned about themselves and the impression that they are making. They lose their naturalness and spontaneity, and when you talk to another person, forget about yourself. Don't worry about being liked or popular. Instead, focus on making others feel like and popular. Chapter 34. Don't kill the ball. To kill the ball is a tennis term. It's what you do when your opponent is out of position. You punch on the ball and hit it so hard that you win the point. When you and another person are having an argument, that is what you generally try to do. You try to find a point or fact or position where you can't win without your opponent being able to respond. But when you are trying to be charming, it's utter madness to try to stick out of a winning position. The last thing you want is for the conversation to fall out of a charm, because you are beginning to find yourself in disagreement with the other person. Then you are in potentially dangerous position of wanting to kill the ball, and with it all your effort so far. Do you want to be happy or right? No matter how strongly you feel or how ridiculous you think other people's idea may be, avoid the tiniest sense of conflict. Conflict is a conversation is a sort of charm buster. That doesn't mean you cannot be firm in your opinions, but don't let the idea of winning the point overwhelm your true purpose, which is to be warm, genial, likable, and pleasure to be around. In a word, to be charming. Your tools for charming others. First, be clear about your intent in any conversation. It is to be charming. It's not to win the point or to impress others with your cleverness. And second, avoid conflict at all costs. It is an immediate charm buster. It's difficult to be perceived as being charming when there is even a semblance of hostility in the air. And third, you may be pleasantly firm with your opinions, but don't try to kill the ball. Present your point of view gently, tentatively, and then let it go. Don't become so involved in being right that your charm is obscure in a cloud of argument. And finally, only take over the conversation when other people make it clear that they want to hear from you. When they ask a lot of questions about you, that means they are most likely interested in you. Oblige them, but don't risk becoming a bore or going on too long. When it comes to charm or winning the point, if you win, you lose. Chapter 35. Get in step with the other person. Timing is everything in getting through to people, especially in the area of charm. As it says in Ecclesiastes, there is a time for every purpose under heaven. Your job is to determine when it is. Have you ever tried to talk with others only to find yourself out of step with their mood? You are cool and mellow, and they are agitated and uptight. You are feeling life's a ball, and they are down in the dumps. The two of you are worlds apart in any attempt to make a connection fails. You may try to be supportive and reassuring, but nothing seems to work. You just cannot connect. Why is that? It could be because at that moment the two of you have different rhythm and are moving in a different speeds, like automobile gears grinding. It's the same with people. You have to find a way to match gears to make sure that you and the other person are in sync, so that no matter how different you are, you can create rapport. Practice mirroring and matching. Long before the advent of neuro-linguistic programming and NLP, professionals used an acting exercise called mirroring and matching. To learn what it's like to be a leader or follower, the exercise trained actors to work in harmony with each other and synchronizing the movement and behavior. For example, one person would make up a tune and hum it, and other would try to hum the same tune similarly at the identical time. Two people would, with each other's cooperation, become a mirror image of each other. And most of us have the lately ability to adapt different types of people, but for all kinds of reasons, we don't. Can you imagine what it would be like if you could only relate to people exactly like you? How narrow your world would become. As the reason many people become so inflexible and judgmental. If you don't do it the way I do it, if you don't see the world exactly as I see it, then you're wrong, unworthy, irrelevant. People with the charm avoid being inflexible and judgmental. They enjoy seeing the world through others' eyes as well as their own. And that is one of the most fundamental secrets of charm, and being able to see the world through the other person's eyes. Your tools for charming others. The next time you are in a conversation, try this exercise. First, consciously mirror and match the other person or people with whom you are conversing by listening to their speech and watching their body language. If they speak rapidly, you match them. If they speak fairly slowly, you do the same. If they gesture a great deal, so should you. If they are restrained in their gesture, you be the same. And second, whatever seems to be their topic of the day, try to see it from their point of view, not smile, agree, and over reassurances. The idea is to get them to say in their minds, I'm very comfortable with this person, we have so much in common, we are very similar. We all tend to like and feel at ease with other people who seem in the tune and harmony with us. We find them charming. Special bonus section, the power of charm on the telephone. And many of us spend vast amount of time on telephone with the advent of cell phones, and more people are chattering away in any and every place you can imagine. The development of telephone charm can dramatically increase your effectiveness in dealing with other people, and try this simple technique. Step 1. The first impression. You know the old saying, you never get second chance to make a first impression? Often, that first impression is not created face-to-face but on the telephone. Many sales professionals and business people never actually meet their customer in person. They do business solely on the phone, and they are successful with this technique because they develop relevant personalities that come across charmingly and persuasively. A common experience. True story. A customer called up an appliance company and a woman's voice answered abruptly, K and B. The caller said, I beg your pardon, and she again said, K and B. In the same grim, totally charmless manner, the caller paused and then asked gently, why didn't you say good morning? There was silence. Then the caller said, you have such a nice speaking voice. I would love to have heard you say good morning. Still silence. Could you say it now? Another silence, and then finally, good morning. The effect was striking. By now her voice and manner were totally friendly, and there was, in fact, a smile in her voice. The customer responded by saying, that was terrific. Thank you. The customer's impression of the receptionist and the company she represented changed radically from her first K and B to her last good morning. And what a little thing to do, to smile, and what a difference it makes. Don't forget that smile can be heard and felt in your voice on the phone, and the listener might not smile, but you must. Number 2, or step 2, looking for clues to how someone speaks and listens. The beginning of the telephone conversations give you a great opportunity to discover how the person on the other end of the line communicates. You will soon discover whether their conversation is dominated either by what the person thinks about things or how she or he feels about things. Psychologists call them cues, systemic cues, heuristic cues, and respectively, we call them clues. The words people choose and the way they sound as they speak are clues to what is important to them at that time. And we talk and listen to the other people to be prepared to synchronize with whatever communication made them they are using, respond with more of the same like detail versus emotions. For example, when someone seems particularly interested in discussing the informational detail of a topic, you should avoid talking about feeling and emotion. The reverse is also true. If the other person seems to be emotionally involved with the subject you are discussing, avoid talking about practical and logistical things until the person changes course. You don't want to be talking past one another. You want to be on the same wavelength. And imagine the disconnect there would be if a friend or family member was talking about the beauty of the mountains and how peaceful it is to vacation there, and you'd insist on discussing the geology of the region and the type of crops grown there. You might as well have just arrived from Mars. Others talk about feelings and emotion. You talk about facts and figures. The result, disenchantment. And they talk about numbers and logistics. You talk about mood and emotion. The result, calamity. Step 3. Giving people what they want. If you want to be charming, remember this point. It's not about you. Forget about yourself. Oblige the other person. When you are talking to someone on the phone, treat the mouthpieces of the phone as though it is the ear of the person you are talking to, and speak warmly and gently. Caress it with your voice. It will help make what you say sound more intimate, caring, and personal. Here are the 22 most powerful ideas ever to help you become more charming on the telephone. 1. Encourage the other person to talk. When it's your turn to talk, don't go into the series or mini monologue. Instead, ask questions and listen closely to the answer. And the more you listen, the more charming you sound. Number 2, speak clearly, simply, and directly. If the other person uses ordinary language without complicated words, you must do the same. Nothing can create a barrier more rapidly than sounding superior by using $10 words, and keep away from any language that cuts the other person out of the loop. Number 3, listen attentively, because it's the only way you can learn. Most people would rather talk than listen, especially on the phone, and resist this tendency. And when the other person wants to talk, focus on listening. Number 4, be a patient listener. Although you might be ready with an answer after the first few words they say, allow them to complete their thoughts and air their feelings until it is your turn to speak. Number 5, be an active listener. Use vocal and verbal acknowledgement resonances such, yes, I see, really? You don't say, of course. And like this simple remark, let the person know that you are fully engaged. Number 6, interrupt without offending. Interrupting can be read as a negation of what the other person is saying and thinking. It's a small put down, and we absolutely must interrupt. Always take the blame. Say something like, forgive me for interrupting, but I didn't want to forget this point. Number 7, you start graphic examples and stories, and try it steadily. But when it's your turn to speak, create a little theater with your comment. It was not just a sunny day, it was a warm, glad to be alive sunny day. Be colorful and pictorial. Number 8, never assume, never presume. No matter how friendly that conversation is, never stretch this familiarity level above what the other person has said, especially when it comes to kidding around. If you cannot say it to your mother or father, don't say it to someone else. Number 9, don't rush. Number 10, use pauses. When you or the person you are addressing needs time to think, try introducing a pause and warn the other persons by saying, take a moment to consider that, or give me a moment to think. When you pause, don't take too long or you will get a hello, are you there? 11, don't oversell information. Give people the information they need, no more. And some people look back at making decision or coming into conclusion. If they are overwhelmed, don't tell them what they don't want or need to know. And be alert to the fact that your over enthusiasm could overfill their interest level. Number 12, be empathetic to people's moods and concerns. If they are unhappy, be unhappy for them. If they are glad, be glad for them. If you are trying to sell people on a product or an idea, remember that once they see you as a friend who cares about them, they will be more open to changing their minds and opinion. 13. Keep your voice animated and energized. 14. Express your emotions. Your voice and manner should project enthusiasm, concern, excitement, and pleasure. You want to convey the intensity, even the passion, of your conviction, but take care not to overdo it because then you are overselling. 15. Smile into the phone. A smile can be both heard and felt. It changes the shape of your mouth, which affects the tone of your voice. Your voice will sound warmer and friendlier if you smile when you are speaking. 16. Give people what you want from them. If you want them to be excited, you must sound excited. If you want them to be convinced, you must sound convinced. And they want to give you what you don't give them. Focus on talking about what is interesting in the other person's. Make sure her ideas, opinion, and concern are always foremost in a conversation. 18. Resist going advice. This applies on the phone and when speaking with someone in person as well. If a person asks for advice, resist the temptation to respond. Instead, ask, what do you think you should do? 19. Always ask permission. When they had not asked for advice, but you know they need it, try saying, may I make a suggestion? And always be gentle. 20. Respond to anger or an aggressive manner with gentleness. If you respond in like a manner, you may win an emotional battle with you, but you will surely lose the charm war. Remember that a soft answer turns away breath. 21. Don't stop being charming before you are half hung up. And be sure your charm extends into everything you could say, excluding good advice. Have you ever spoken to someone on the phone who abruptly cuts the conversation? It makes you wonder if the person meant anything he said, doesn't it? The last, 22. Think of yourself as mentoring your listener. Try to be like the best mentor you can remember. Inform, patient, kind, caring, concerned, warm, supportive, and protective. Strive to be genuinely helpful and friendly. Your tools for charming others. Resolve today to become an excellent and charming communicator on the phone. And first, keep this suggestion on a single piece of paper and have them in front of you whenever you speak on the phone. Review them casually as you speak and look for opportunity to apply them. And second, treat each phone call as an important meeting with a special client. Get rid of all distraction and concentrate single-mindedly on the voice of the other person. With a little thought and practice, the skills will become invaluable in your social life and priceless in your business and career. In fact, they will do as much as to improve the quality of your relationship as anything else you do. Thanks for listening.